Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nervous Chat. I appreciate it's Saturday night, so it's a bit of a different to our usual streaming night. That's because tonight's guest, it just worked better for us to do a Saturday night with the time differential. So there's a little bit of a clue as to at least the location of tonight's guest. Um, just welcome a few people in who are in the live chat tonight. Good evening to Beda from Stubwood YouTube. Adam and Craig, lovely to see you guys. Thanks for joining. Esther, lovely to see you. Chris, love to see you back again. Kate, thanks for joining. Dave, thanks for coming in, Dave. I know you've had a very busy day over there in Plopsaland. Looking forward to hearing all about that. Disney UK, thank you very much for joining. I think that's everybody that's in at the moment. So I will crack on with introducing tonight's guest. We've got a lot to talk about, and I think it's going to be. Oh, sorry. Good evening, Max, and of course, good evening to Jameer from Park Visions. Right, let's crack on with introducing tonight's guest. We've got a lot to talk about, and it's a. I think it's only fair we crack on. So. Tonight's guest is somebody that I've watched for quite some time and loved and really enjoyed what they do on their channel. And I initially reached out to them probably about this time last year, actually, with a view to asking them to come on to the show. And unfortunately, it just didn't work. The timings and things just didn't work. But always wanted to have a chat with this guy because he emulates a lot of what I stand for myself, with tackling fears and that kind of thing, and also being a family enthusiast as well. So I've been desperate to get this guy on and get him in for a bit of a chat to find out what he's all about and introduce him to all of you guys too. So without further ado, let's bring him in. It is the one and only Chris from Airtime Thrills. Good evening, Chris.
Hey, Darren, how's it going?
Brilliant, thank you. How are you?
Good. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon here in the States.
Yep, I wouldn't say that too often. We're experiencing quite miserable weather over in the UK at the moment, and I think there could be some jealousy there. So I'll never forget the episode I did with I don't you probably know Longhorn Coasters, Dylan and Peyton.
hmm
They did a live stream for us from Universal Islands of Adventure,
Yeah.
which was amazing. Except that particular Saturday night that we did it, it was miserable weather in the UK, and it was brilliant sunshine in Florida.
Yeah.
And I think everybody went away with a bit of FOMO there because it was just it was just you know it was just such an extreme difference between the two weathers. It was so yeah. So you might see a few comments in the chat about the jealousy of the weather there. So
Yeah.
you bear
Well,
with me on that
it's
one.
hot. If that makes you feel better, it's hot and humid here, but at least it's sunny.
Yes, no, absolutely, definitely. Um, so we'll crack off. I've got a couple of questions to ask you that I ask pretty much every guest about it's just a bit of ice breaking if you like. So we'll start off first of all. It's a food based question. The choice, if you had the choice between pizza, pasta, or a rice based dish, what would you go for?
Probably pasta. You can't really go wrong with a good pasta or pizza for that matter, but I'd probably go with the pasta. I love rice too, so I don't know. It all sounds good to me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I must admit, yeah, it's a mood thing, isn't it, more than anything else? Um, Next question I got to ask you, probably a little bit more taxing. What was your dream job growing up, and what do you
Uh,
do now?
Yeah, I didn't really know what I wanted to do growing up. I kind of wanted to be a journalist or a writer when I was small, and then didn't really know what to do during high school, so I decided to be a teacher. So I went to school to be a teacher, and then I graduated during the financial crash of 2008. So, so I just took a job in insurance. So yeah, for about 12 years now, I've been working in auto insurance and either as a underwriter or a business analyst, and now I'm actually a database developer. So that's my current job. And I started doing YouTube about 5 years ago. 2018. So that's kind of been like a side job since then.
Fair enough. If you could be an animal, what animal would you be and why?
If I can be an animal,
Yeah.
well, I would for sure be a bird, because I could fly to any park I wanted to, and I would just ride any coaster I wanted. Just take an open seat, just have at it. No weights, no getting stapled. Yeah, I'll be like a big bird, but yeah, maybe like an eagle.
You're the first person that's given an answer and then related it to roller coasters in some way.
I have thought about it before, so there, if that tells you anything.
No, no, absolutely. If you were president for the day, what would be the first thing you would change? I'm
Oh
not asking
wow,
for a political statement
there's a
here. It could be
loaded
something
question.
fun.
Something fun. National Roller Coaster Day is a holiday, and everyone gets $50 to go to their local park.
Perfect. You've got my vote. When are you standing? Oh, good evening, Abby. Thank you for joining. Okay, obviously I emailed you ahead because knowing how many roller coasters that you have done, I thought this might take a little bit of thought, and so I thought I'd give you some pre-warning about this question. If we had to build your nightmare park with the worst 5 rides you've ever done in, what would those 5 rides be, and where are they located? Because obviously most of my viewers are UK based, so that they might not know
Okay.
the rides.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously my 5 rides are all in America or they're dead now. So the 5 that I picked are all just terrible. Let's start with the toboggan at Little America. Those things have been around for a long time, but most of them are gone now. Those are those chance rides toboggans where you go up the tower and spiral down, and then you hit some airtime hills. Which, if you're over like 5'10", you're gonna break your neck because it kind of flings you back into the roof of the car. So I would say
Ooh.
that's probably the worst active coaster in America right now. And then the worst active coaster that I've ridden in the world, Time Warp at Canada's Wonderland. I don't know why they decided to put ear pads around your ears. Because I've ridden the Volaires before without ear pads, and they're perfectly fine. But Time Warp was just a nightmare. I'm kind of upset I didn't get to ride it again last time I went there because it was closed. And I probably, if I had to guess, that thing doesn't have long to live at that park at least. So I would put that in there. Another terrible design with terrible restraints, Flashback at Magic Mountain. It was built to fit in a spot, but it was not built for comfort or fun. And that thing just smashed your ears until they were bleeding on the stupid over-the-shoulder restraints, which they weren't even needed. So it was a terrible coaster. Another terrible design, Windjammer at Knott's Berry Farm. Again, just ridiculously big, hard over-the-shoulder restraints, terrible track profiling, jerky Wild Mouse style ride. I only got to ride it a couple times when I was, maybe 10 or 11 years old, but it stuck with me how bad it was. And finally, the 5th coaster, the one and only Green Lantern, at least the one at Magic Mountain. That is the only coaster where I actually thought I might be physically injured. Well, Toboggan actually did like mess up my neck for about a week, but Green Lantern I thought was going to give me an aneurysm the way the thing ran. So
Wow.
I think it wasn't necessarily the ride's design; it was just the way they were running it. But yeah, Green Lantern would be the number one worst coaster to put in my nightmare park.
You obviously you touched on there one of the negatives of at least one or two of those rides were the overhead restraints. Now, obviously,
Yes,
I know in the US, you've basically disposed of overhead restraints on a lot of
pretty
a lot of
much.
styles
Yeah,
of roller coaster now. You're going to get a shock if you come to the UK. We're still very much
I
obsessed
know.
with.
Stealth. I was like, why does Stealth have over the shoulder restraints? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I get it. I can understand a little bit more with inverted coasters, obviously.
Yeah, you don't
Um,
see. I mean, obviously, that's a very recent trend with looping inverted coasters having just the lap bar restraints. So
yeah.
I can't really fault you for that. So
But yeah, but launch coasters, obviously I've seen King the Car, and things like that, and you're like, yeah, Stealth's not even what half as fast as that,
mhm,
and they insist on you being completely stapled in,
yeah,
um,
or even Rita too.
yeah, which is
Same
even
way.
slower again.
Yep.
you know, and doesn't have a top hat. It's literally, it's almost a flat ride,
Hmm.
you know, with just some airtime hills in it and things. And yeah, still overhead restraints.
Yep.
I think that's more indicative of their age, though, possibly
I'm sure. Yeah.
than design flaws, because they're both getting on a little bit now.
Hmm.
But yeah, hopefully we do seem to be progressing very, very slowly. Um, Obviously, we were talking just before we went live about Project Exodus, which you've obviously heard of at Thorpe Park,
Yep.
which will be the UK's first hypercoaster, I believe. No, sorry, no, the
Big one. Yep.
big one. Sorry, so the second hypercoaster, but it will be lap bars only.
Yep.
So that's quite exciting. And then of course Sick, which we
Yep.
opened at
Flamingo Land.
Flamingo Land, which I'm going up to visit next month actually for the first time.
Nice.
Is also lap bars only. So we
Oh,
are
I didn't know
slowly.
that. That's nice.
Yeah, it's older twin, if you like, which is Colossus, which is at my local
Yep.
theme park, has
Yep.
overhead restraints,
Hmm.
and they are awful. You are literally stapled in. It's you know, I love Colossus,
Hmm.
probably because for me, being so short, I'm only 5'5",
Hmm.
so the overhead restraints don't affect me as much as taller people.
Right.
But I can see that they are, you know, uncomfortable for a lot of people, and I think, you know, as I say, we're moving in the right direction.
You're right. Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, you touched on starting up your YouTube channel there in 2018.
Yep.
So what made you start your YouTube channel? Because obviously a lot of people start because of COVID. They started because of COVID, you know. But
Right.
you were before that, so
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I got on Instagram. I really hadn't been in social media for coasters. I started in 2017. And I've always just been someone who likes to rank things up, whether it be like just places I've been or, sports teams or whatever. I just like to rank things. So I was thinking like, oh, it'd be really fun to like rank my favorite coasters, but I can't really do that on Instagram as well. So I was like, I'll just start a YouTube channel so I can just start doing rankings and stuff. So it just kind of snowballed from there. I started doing rankings, then kind of moved on to reviews, started doing vlogs, started doing like little documentaries and stuff like that. And some of those caught on like the algorithm, and those took off and grew the channel to the point where it is now. So yeah, I'm edging towards 80,000 subscribers at this point.
yeah, I mean that's a phenomenal achievement, absolutely phenomenal. You know, and yeah, I one day I might get there. I don't know. You never know, do you? You know,
Yeah,
it sometimes it takes one video, doesn't it?
just gotta catch the algorithm. I also have a baseball
Yeah,
channel that I'm trying to grow, and it has been doing very well lately. But still, it's like you just gotta catch that one video that just gets like 250,000 views, and then that kind of like launches you forward.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. Obviously, when I think I first became aware of Airtime Thrills when I started searching on YouTube for theme park channels,
Hmm.
and Airtime Thrills was recommended to me. Um, so I started watching some of your ranking videos because, as you rightly say, ranking videos are very popular. People like a top 10 or a top
Yep.
5, or you know, that kind of thing. That especially in it would appear in the theme park world. Um, I've never actually done a top 10 of my own. It's something I've always planned on doing, but I changed my mind so much that I'm not sure I can commit it yet. But it will come eventually. I think once I've finished the UK off, I might then feel a bit safer with a top 10.
It
I
seems like a
think
lot of
that's
people
probably
don't like to rank things. I don't know. It seems like a lot of people. It's just that in their nature doesn't seem to want to necessarily like put one thing ahead of another, and they just try to avoid doing rankings. But I'm like the complete opposite of that. I rank everything, so it just kind of works out that way. But it's hard for
yeah, no,
some people.
absolutely. I think maybe it's not wanting to upset people, you know, because
That could be it. Yeah, that could be it
if
too.
you if you state that you hate a certain ride, you're
Yep.
always going to get people that will disagree with you, and some vocally disagree with you.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, you know, I wonder if there is a degree of that about that. But you know, yeah. Um, Obviously, as I looked into the channel, I came across your very first video.
Yeah.
You know, because I whenever
That
I
was
come across
fun.
a channel, I like to go right back to the beginning,
Right.
just because I like to see, you know, how it's developed, etc.
Right.
And of course, I was quite shocked to discover, and it made me instantly subscribe to you, and want to watch more. That you started off from a very similar place to myself, being terrified of roller coasters.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't touch those things until I was about 12.
You got the jump on me on that one. I think I was nearly 40 before I started challenging my fear of them. But I'd never experienced them as a child. I
Yeah.
grew up in North Wales. There are no theme parks, and coming from a very sort of poor background, theme parks were just not something we could ever do.
Right.
Um, but once I started experiencing and getting being interested and that kind of thing, it was sort of a progression pushed heavily by my wife, who is a complete adrenaline junkie. That to challenge my fears. But as I say, it was just lovely to. I was drawn to you as a suggestion by YouTube, and then to discover that sort of that parity that we had. I just thought, wow, this is great. This guy will understand where I'm coming from, even though he challenged his fears a lot younger.
Hmm.
He still came from the same place where holding the bag, terrified, and then gradually um, getting on. Was there one person that you found was your rock when it came to trying new rides, or was it just a case of
It was my
I'm getting
dad.
on
It
that?
was my dad forcing me to ride them. Really, we had gone to. It was a day at Montezuma's or Knott's Berry Farm, and we used to go once in a while, and then I would just kind of ride the little rides and stuff. But I remember him telling me we were going like on Montezuma's Revenge. He's like, we paid all this money to get in here. You got to start riding some stuff. And this was '98, I believe, which would have made me 10 years old. So, so I did it. I wrote it, and it was like, okay, I got through it, and then. Um, I went on to write a few other things that day, including Windjammer, which sucked. And I think yeah, it's a little bit of a blur because I think I went a couple times in the late '90s to Knott's, but I still wasn't like completely over it. But I did kind of break the ice there, and it was really a birthday party that I was invited to in 2000. So that would have made me 12 at Magic Mountain, and it was really the first time I'd gone to Magic Mountain to actually ride the coasters, and I knew that I was going to have to. And I was definitely terrified of a few of them, especially Viper, Goliath, and Superman were the ones that was really terrified of writing. But I
Understandable.
did not chicken out on any of them, even though I did get really nervous before those three. I wrote all of them. Um, and then I think after that, that's when I started really like, okay, let me start, going online to see if I can, go to park websites and see what else is out there and go on forums talk to people because before social media, we had internet forums. So that's pretty much what kind of got me into it. And then by 2001, that's when I got my first season pass, and I was pretty much living at Magic Mountain every weekend.
Sounds good. Sounds good. As I say, my regret is that I didn't get the opportunity to discover and challenge that fear until I
Hmm.
was much older. But like you, mine was my wife. So
Yep.
she was the adrenaline junkie. She was the one that pushed me, dragged me onto the swarm initially. Was the first one that we sort of challenged together. And then obviously now I wouldn't say I'm over it. I don't know you're ever. I mean it's a debate I've had with somebody, and I used to think once you were over it, you were over it. Um, I don't know if you ever are completely over it.
I
Um,
think I am at this point, but I remember when I went to Cedar Point the first time to ride Millennium Force. By that point, I had ridden, almost 100 coasters, but that one made me really nervous. But I think that was pretty much the last time I was actually nervous on a coaster. Now, flat rides are a little different. Water slides are different, but in terms of coasters, yeah, that was probably the last time. I remember being nervous on like Supreme Scream, the SNS drop tower at Knott's. That took me a while to get over. And even to this day, if you took me to a water park and made me ride one of those vertical speed slides, I don't think I would. But in terms of coasters, yeah, there's nothing that really scares me anymore out there.
you see, we also have that in common then, because water rides are like my nemesis as far as anxiety is concerned. I'm not the strongest of swimmers. I don't like water, um, and it's a big thing I recently conquered. Uh, Probably one of the bigger water drop rides in the UK, which is at my home park, and I think it was one of only 2 rides that I've not done there before, and so it was kind of like, well, I've got to do it because I've got to be able to say I've done every ride at my home park, albeit it's taken me 2 years or so to get through that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that to me is, it's a big drop because it's actually a very tall water ride, and it's a big drop, and it's absolutely soaking, and I think the soaking part of it for me was worse than anything else. Just that idea of going into that much water and coming off the ride just absolutely wet
Yeah,
to the
right.
skin. Just, I don't know. I don't see the enjoyment of it. I don't. However, it was a massive adrenaline rush. I'm not going to lie. And then, funnily enough, the other ride at my home park that I still can't get onto this day is actually a water slide. It's not mechanical in any way, shape, or form. You go all the way up these steps. You get in this little dinghy, and you come down, and it terrifies me. It absolutely terrifies me. There's no restraints. There's no track. There's so many aspects of that ride that I just think, no.
Yeah, I just don't do water
no.
parks really. I just avoid
Yeah.
them, and
Yeah,
water
well,
rides too. I'm gonna ride some water coasters in Europe, and I'm not really looking forward to it because I hate getting soaked. But I gotta get the credit, so I'll do
well,
it.
that's it, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. We do a lot of things for the credit that we probably wouldn't do it for any other reason sometimes. But obviously now, I spoke briefly earlier about the being a family vlogger as well. I was, and in fact, I was only showing my son Sophie's most recent top 15 roller
Right.
coasters.
hmm
How old is Sophie?
Sophie's
If you don't
10.
mind me asking.
Yeah.
So she's a little bit older than my son Gabriel.
Right.
Just bear me 1 second. My youngest is trying to say goodnight. Just bear with me. Elijah? No, he can come and say goodnight if he's going to bed. Come here. Do you want a cuddle? Oh, come and have a cuddle. Come and say hi to Chris. Look, I apologize.
Hi.
There you go.
How old are
This is
you?
my youngest. He's 2.
2. Okay, he's talking pretty well.
Yeah, he's similar age to Amy, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, Amy's gonna turn 2 in a couple months.
Yeah, I thought they were a similar age. Right, you good night. You be a good boy for mummy. Yeah, go to bed nicely. Yeah. Yeah, you can't stay all night. And the other one that's hiding is Gabriel, who's 7.
7.
Yeah.
Got a little bit less of an age gap than I do.
Yeah. Well, I've actually got 2 older ones as well that are 18,
Oh, you do?
and 18 and 15. So,
Okay, so there's your gap right there.
there's the gap right there, absolutely. But yeah, so I was saying about Sophie joining the channel now, which is lovely to see. Does she have any of your fears, or has she come in as an absolute like?
Yeah, she was a lot more brave than I was. I kind of brought her up a little sooner than like I was brought up. I want to say that she really wasn't that scared of things like off the bat. Like I took her on Ninja as soon as she was tall enough, and then she was a little bit nervous to ride like a looping coaster. But then, like as soon as she hit 48 inches, I was able to get her on Revolution at Magic Mountain. So there was really no like fighting her on doing that. But last couple of years, she was kind of nervous to ride some things like Wild Thing at Valley Fair. She didn't want to ride that. This is like pre our big trip out to the southeast. And even when we went to Dollywood, there's only a few coasters that I had her ride. And then at the end of that day, she said, like, I wouldn't go ride Lightning. I was saying, I want to go ride Lightning Rod last Friday of the night. And I left my wife and the girls behind. And she came running up behind me and said, oh, I want to ride Lightning Rod. Like she decided that she wanted to do it. And it seemed like after that, she was pretty much down for anything. There wasn't a single coaster that we've hit ever since then, which was about a year ago now, that she's been afraid to ride. And since then, she's ridden 3 Giga coasters. She's ridden this pretty much. I don't think there's a single coaster that she chickened out. Like she rode Iron Gwazi. She's ridden all these RMCs, Steel Vengeance.
Wow.
So
wow.
Yeah, so she doesn't get scared of rides. The only thing that I just try to avoid with her is the ones that are too intense or too rough. Because if a ride's too rough, or she doesn't really know how to ride certain rides. Like I think like most people, they can kind of like hold their head steady or whatever. I think she kind of flops around a little bit more than like an adult would, or even like a teenager. So I just really try to either pre-ride things to see if they're okay. Like Viper at Great America. I wasn't sure about that one, so I rode it first I decided, okay, this one I think is okay for you, and then I took her on it, and it was okay. Sometimes I guessed wrong. Like I thought Anaconda would be okay for her at Kings Dominion, it wasn't. Or Rolling Thunder at the park at Oa or the Tropic Falls in Alabama. I thought that'd be fine. It wasn't. So sometimes I miss, but most of the time I'm able to get her just on the stuff that I wanted to get her on. Like we just went to Lost Island in Iowa. I wasn't sure if their SLC would be okay because it has vest restraints. Thought maybe it'd be okay. It wasn't, so I just kept her off of it. So I'm just trying to not give her negative experiences on rides. I try to get her only the ones that are going to be fun, smooth, and then obviously the small ones she can ride just to boost her credit count. She's at like 218 now or something like that.
Wow, that's I mean that's a phenomenal amount of coasters at 10, isn't it?
Yes, When I was 10, I had 1 or 2 credits.
I was going to say, I mean, at 10 I had 0, and I'm only on about, I think I'm just coming up to 60 now. So she's, already quadrupled my coaster count. So, a fair play to her. But I totally understand what you're saying about the whole, keeping it to the smoother rides and not wanting her to have a negative experience, because obviously that can have an impact. Gabriel, sadly, I think inherited my anxieties to a large degree. So we've had to, I've had to work with him. Luckily, because I've been able to challenge my fears, he's sort of following in my footsteps. And he's, over the last 12 months, he's got so much braver. They opened up the new roller coaster, obviously at Chessington, the Mandrill Mayhem in the world of Jumanji. And that was his first coaster with an inversion.
Nice.
First coaster with a multi-launch. And I mean, he absolutely loves that coaster now.
So what's the height requirement on that? Because it seems like a 7-year-old would be a little too small for B&M.
It's interesting you say that. It's actually only a 1.2 meter, 120 centimeters is the height requirement for that one. And when they first announced the coaster, it was announced as it would be 120 centimeters because it's a family park. They wouldn't want anything bigger than that really, because it would be a bit too exclusive. But then obviously when we found out that it had an inversion, everyone was sort of speculating, well, a B&M coaster with an inversion, surely that's got to be a 1.4 minimum. That's almost a standard. So there was a lot of speculation, and then once I think it was about halfway through the actual construction, that Chessington World of Adventures announced, no, it will be a 120 centimeter ride. So, which is absolutely fantastic, because what it's given us in the UK, something that I think was missing largely, was that step ride.
A starter coaster with the inversion, a
starter coaster with an inversion, and as I say, and it's got the multi-launch feature as well. And obviously it's a first for B&M as well, because it's a shuttle coaster, which they've never manufactured before. I mean, I have to say it's a great ride. It's a great coaster. I've done every seat at least twice now.
Wow.
And I love it. It is a great ride. So obviously we've got him through that now. So now I'm looking at, but unfortunately he is still only just over the 120 centimeters. So we're now running out of rides for him. But I don't want to stop the train because it's going and he's getting more confident, and so we're now sort of searching for parks with rides that are sort of 120 centimeters that might be a little bit more challenging, but not so challenging that it's going to push him back. Because I know for me, when I was in that position, I had a really bad experience of Rita, for example, and it put me off Rita and launch coasters for a while. So I don't want that for him, but so it's finding that balance, as you say, isn't it, between a challenge but a comfortable challenge that's not going to push them back. And we won't always get it right, because as you rightly say, sometimes what's good for us isn't good for them, and vice versa. There's rides that he loves that I think are rough as anything, but
also you need to be careful about the height and how restraints affect you with your height. So a lot of times with me, I'm like, oh, it's a great ride. But with her, the restraints are lower on her head versus me on my shoulders. It's a little bit different experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They move around more, don't they? So I think that's something I've got to be. I think being a shorter person gives me a bit of an advantage and of insight into that, because I most over shoulder restraints don't actually sit on my shoulders.
Right.
So I get that. I would feel it probably the way that Sophie would feels the coaster. She's probably not far off as tall as me. To be absolutely fair,
Yeah,
most
she's
10-year-olds.
right. Yeah, she's 56 inches or 57 inches, which is what, 4'8" or
That's
something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
yeah. She's just under. She's a few inches under 5 foot, isn't she?
About, yeah. 5 foot would be
Yeah,
what, 60 inches?
60 inches is 5 foot.
So
Yeah,
she's a few
yeah,
feet under that, yeah.
yeah.
Or feet
So
inches.
yeah. So there's not a massive difference between me and her. So but yeah, and it does make a big difference to the ride. You're absolutely right. Um, Obviously you've got Amy coming through as well, who did feature in Sophie's little countdown. I noticed, and
All right. Yeah.
that was very much that was an ah moment for me as a dad. I was like, oh, lovely. Do you think Amy's going to be another thrill seeker like
I
yourself?
think so. If you saw her, if you saw her little cameo in my Lost Island vlog I just did, she was going down the
Yeah,
slides like nobody's business by herself. So I think she's going to be a thrill seeker. That's just my opinion, my guess.
Elijah, who you saw there, is absolutely fearless. I think he will be a get on anything, anywhere,
Hmm.
and not be bothered at all. I think he's got two coaster creds already
Oh, wow.
at 2 years old. So yeah, it's and they just don't. It just doesn't bother him. He is absolutely fearless. So it's going to be nice to have that
Yeah,
child
we're
because I've
hoping
never
next
had.
spring. Next spring, hopefully, we get Amy her first one. Maybe like the gravity coaster at Frontier City or something like that. Something that's small, but yeah, right. She's too small right now. She's only about 2 feet tall.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got the same problem. He's just uh, it's he's just under that 90 centimeter sort of minimum.
Hmm.
We have it in most places in the UK. So it's yeah, we're just waiting for him to hit that now. And then there's a few coasters, little what we call the kiddie coasters, if you like, that he'll be able
Hmm.
to do. And it'll just be nice to be able to do that with him because at the moment we take him to parks and there's so little really he can do, and he gets bored and he's a very active child. So
Yeah,
it's we're very much looking forward to that.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but yeah, um, obviously, as you say, you've almost hit the 80,000 subs. You've got your baseball channel that you're obviously pushing as well now. Um, so where do you see your YouTube channel going? Are you going to keep going with more of the same, or are you because obviously top tens change all the time.
Oh yeah,
Um, you know,
yeah.
um,
It's
or have
always
you
a
a vision?
question when you think about like, okay, I've been doing YouTube for 5 years. Where is it going to stop? Is it going to stop because I want it to stop, or is it going to be taken away from me? you know,
Yeah,
um, you never know what's going to happen to YouTube. Social media sites don't last forever. Um, you don't know, if you're going to get struck out from copyright. And that could happen too.
yeah,
So you can try to avoid that. Or you can just lose popularity, which I've also seen happen to channels too. And sometimes, I mean, if you lose popularity, usually it's because you kind of stop trying or you stop uploading as much or your stuff starts losing quality. So I'm going to try to avoid that. But you just never know where's it going to stop. And I pretty much, I still have a lot of ideas. I still have a long list of countdowns that have been, either thought of myself or people have requested that I haven't gotten to. That'd be nice to get to. Um, every year I try to get some new experiences as well as revisit past experiences. So like this year, my first trip was really like getting back to parks I haven't been to in a long time. Canada's Wonderland, Darien Lake, Six Flags St. Louis, revisiting things I haven't been to in 5 years. And then what I'm running into now is that I don't really have a lot of places I can go to that are new anymore in
yeah,
the United States. So it's like, okay, last year I went to the Southeast. I went to Disney World really for the first time in a long time because I got to visit some of those parks. A couple of years ago, I went up to like Great Escape and the Jersey boardwalks and Valley Fair and Michigan's Adventure and stuff that I haven't been to before. But like I'm running out of corners of the country to go to get new experiences. So that's why this year I'm like, I need to go somewhere. And I was thinking about going to the UK. And to answer Chris's adventure
yeah. I was just going to
question,
say that.
which one
Yeah,
would I like to go on? My biggest bucket list coaster in the UK is probably Nemesis, but a lot of the coasters in the UK don't have they're not really up my alley in terms of like height, speed, and airtime. That's why the hyper coaster coming to Thorpe Park is exciting for me, because that might be like the best coaster in the country. I'm intrigued by coasters like the Smiler, but everything else is kind of like, oh, they look nice. Like Saw looks nice, the Swarm looks nice, and Big One looks interesting. Galactica looks interesting, but are they going to be like top 100, top 50 coasters? I don't really count on it. So I'm kind of glad I'm not going to the UK this year, because Nemesis is getting retracked and they're building the new coaster at Thorpe. So definitely a better opportunity to come back later. But yeah, so I'm joining the coaster crew on their first trip, or their trip to Scandinavia. That'll be my first time outside of the United States riding coasters, outside of North America at least. So like I said, I'm trying to get past experiences, reliving those. I'm trying to get new experiences, and then so I can make videos about those, and then kind of like how coasters have shot up and down my rankings, and how the new coasters I've ridden rank up and everything. So I'm going to just keep doing that. I might go to Australia next winter. I'll see what the summer brings. Maybe something else overseas. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't plan on doing anything different. I still plan on doing like one full-length documentary every year. This year I did Astroworld. Next year I'm going to do Great Adventure. And then we have other like 50th anniversaries coming up. The next year, Kings Dominion would be a great one for 2025. 2020. Oh, also Busch Gardens Williamsburg's 2025 for the 50th anniversary. There's also the Great America Parks for 2026. So that I have a lot of good opportunities lined up there, and those do terrible when I first release them, but when I release them as a one big documentary, they do great. So as long as that happens, then I'll just keep doing it, because they do take a long time to make.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, if you wait for Exodus to open it, well, we call it's Project Exodus. We don't know exactly what it's going to be called yet. I'm leaning towards they might just stick with that name, and they might just call it Exodus. I think it's quite a cool name. Then obviously you've got Nemesis's twin. Well, people call it Nemesis's twin. It's not Nemesis's twin, but it's Inferno at Thorpe Park 2, which is it's a B&M invert. Very similar. The elements are very similar between the two. They're just laid out. The layout's just slightly different. Personally, I prefer the ride of Inferno. I think it's a bit more intense. It does pull a few more G's as a coaster. However, the retracked Nemesis does look very, very good. And the theming around Nemesis was always better. And of course, it's an engineering feat that coaster, because they literally had to blast a valley to be able to have it. So it has that. But yeah. They are. I mean, they are obviously they are B&M inverts, which we all know are catalog coasters essentially, aren't they? There's quite a few examples of those across the US.
Yep.
Is it the Batmans that are your typical B&M inverts?
Yeah, at least the Six Flags parks really loaded up on those.
Yeah. But they're good rides. So that'll.
Like I said, the UK has a lot of solid coasters. It's just that they don't really. Before Exodus, it didn't seem like, or even Nemesis really, because it's unique. They didn't have like that one coaster that you can really get excited about. Like in Germany, you have like Karnen, and you got G-Force, and you got Colossus, and you have just a lot of interesting, unique coasters there. Whereas in the UK, it's like, oh yeah, you got Stealth, and you got Swarm, and you got a lot of like interesting looking coasters that are really solid rides, but something to get really excited about. Not as much. Not in my opinion, at least.
I think the other problem is that there's been a lack of investment in UK theme parks for a number of years. So 10 years ago, those coasters that you named might well have been exciting enough to come to.
True.
But they're now 10 years older, and the rest of the theme park world has moved on massively since then.
Yeah.
So, but we've not caught up. We're now playing catch up a little bit. Obviously, as you say, Smiler, it's a good solid coaster. Obviously, it's a world record holder. Do I think it's overrated? Yes. I think 12 inversions would have been enough. There's 2 inversions in there that are rough as anything, and it just literally feels like they've squeezed them in
Yeah.
too closely together to get that record.
Right.
So they've become rough. And Gerstlauers don't age particularly well anyway, I don't
No,
think.
not from the start, really either.
No. So Saw, as you mentioned, at Thorpe Park as well, is also riding particularly rough in my opinion at the moment.
Yeah.
So, as I agree that there's probably nothing here at the moment to make anybody, especially an American enthusiast, go, oh yeah, I really want to come to the UK because they've got this and they've got that, and
Right.
it's like, yeah, I'd like to go to the UK to experience these, but it's not a priority when when their neighbours are
Yeah.
Energylandia at Poland with
Yeah.
Hyperion
Or the
and
Netherlands
Zadra.
with Ride to Happiness and Conda and
Exactly, and
Untamed and Goliath. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we're losing out to that massively, but we'll get there. I'm hoping we're seeing a massive period of investment at the moment.
Hmm.
Obviously, talking about investment and you talking about new challenges and everything. I thought it was well, quite a coincidence really that obviously the week that were due to come onto my show, the announcement came out about a brand new $2 billion park being built right on your doorstep, essentially.
Right.
Um, you know, um, how much have you heard about that? I mean, obviously, it's.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's still very much in the
I
planning
had no idea
stages.
about this until a few days ago when it was announced. It was like, okay, this is interesting. You think about Lost Island being $100 million theme park. And now you're talking about this Heartland Park being a $2 billion theme park, which is 20 times as much, which is just crazy. It'd be very interesting to see if it comes to fruition, because I think that this company that's doing it has had projects fall through before. It's a lot of
Right.
money to invest in the area, which is not exactly
Mm.
a big population center. It's about an hour and 20 minutes or so from Tulsa. So I'm a little bit south of Tulsa. So it's about an hour and a half for me.
Right.
It's kind of between me and Silver Dollar City, or me
Okay.
and Worlds of Fun. It's kind of like like in the middle. It's kind of like near the border of Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas, where they all kind of meet. Um, Not exactly like the closest metropolitan area to this is probably Tulsa, and that's still over an hour away. So I'm
Yep.
very curious to see how they're expecting to draw a lot of people in there. A lot of people, a lot of tourists maybe coming from like local areas. It's an interesting spot to put it. Like, you think of where Universal's putting their park in Texas, that's like in suburban Dallas. That's a huge area. Um,
Yes.
but this place just kind of seems like it's in the middle of nowhere. And it'll be interesting to see how that's going to shake out. You don't see humongous parks just pop up in the middle of nowhere that often.
No, I think the only sort of European example of that possibly would be, of course, Energylandia in Poland,
Right. Right.
which is exactly that. It was a park that
Yes.
just sort of popped up out of nowhere with all
Right.
these massive coasters, and I think they're still sort of finishing it off because
Well, they keep expanding it. I mean, there's a lot of
and they
farmland
keep
around
expanding
it,
it.
and you look at the progression over the years. You're just like, oh, there's Zadra, which used to be farmland, and then this Abyssus that used to be farmland. They just have so much space to keep expanding out if they want to. I
Yeah,
think at some point it's going to get too big for for what they're drawing in, but we'll see.
yeah. I wondered. I must admit, I question Poland as a theme park country. So I think it's largely a draw from other European countries to Poland to visit it. Obviously, Kevin from Exploration Theme Parks there recently did a European trip, and one of the places he visited was Energylandia, and I know he
Hmm.
was absolutely blown away by it.
Yeah.
As a park, it's probably one of the closest things maybe that we've got in scale to a US park
Yeah.
over here in Europe,
Hmm.
because it is on a massive, massive scale. Um, um, so I mean, if if this park comes to fruition, because obviously we've had a similar scenario over here with the London theme park that was has been had planning permission granted a couple of times, or got to those stages and then got
Hmm.
blocked, allegedly by buried in bureaucracy by Merlin, of course, because that would be right on the doorstep of three of their parks if it was to go ahead. Do you think it's likely to go ahead, or are we? Is this somebody's pipe dream?
I mean, they got the plans. I don't know much about the people behind it. I heard that the people who are building it were involved in Silver Dollar City and Disney World. but I don't really know about the financing. Obviously, I'm wishful thinking that it will come about. But if you
Yes, of
look at,
course.
I do that series about theme park news per year,
Yeah.
where I go through, and it seems like when I go through news stories for every year, I hear about all kinds of things that are in the works, and I'm like, oh, what happened to that? And I'll look on Wikipedia and it'd be like, 2 years into the planning, it got scrapped, and that seems to happen 75% of the time with new projects. So we just got to
Yeah.
keep that in mind. And just the fact that this is going to be a $2 billion park being put in the middle of nowhere just makes me suspicious that maybe it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that would be sad if it doesn't happen. If you could choose one type of coaster to go in there, if they said to you, Chris, you're the biggest local YouTuber, theme park YouTuber, and we'd like you to choose one of our coasters, what would you put in, just out of interest?
So they have a big budget, so that's
They
something.
do. Yeah,
Um,
money's no object, clearly.
right. Um, I think something like a Velocicoaster would be cool. Like, so that's something that you could
Yeah,
really theme, like actually make a theme around, and then
yeah,
you can really like make it a thrilling coaster too. So that'd be like a really big draw for everyone. It's not maybe not super crazy intense, but a lot of fun, and obviously it would be a big draw for the theme too. That'd probably be like the best thing I could suggest that they would put in. Now for thrills, personally, I'd say get like an RMC iBox Hyper. That'd be pretty sweet too. Maybe get both. If you have $2 billion,
I was gonna
why
say,
not do
you got
both?
$2 billion, have both, why not? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, obviously, obviously I hope it does go ahead for you, because I think that'd be absolutely fantastic, and it would be a new thing for you to go to and obviously cover. I know it'll take probably a year or two to build, and it's, as you say, it's only only the preliminary announcement, isn't it, that's happened so far.
Right.
So
They're
the
thinking
planning too.
2026. So three years from now, it seems reasonable if they got
As I say,
started.
I think to build a theme park, that's a very reasonable estimate, actually. It's obviously they can build them a lot faster than they traditionally have done,
Yeah,
but
but
I think,
just
yeah,
$2 billion though. I mean, like Lost Island is $100 million, and it looks very nice, but you can kind of tell it's a little bit sparse in some areas. Makes me wonder
yeah,
what this is going to look like. Is it going to be 20 times better? I know that, okay, Lost Island also got a lot of relocated rides. Like the two main coasters are relocated. Um, that probably saved a lot on money too. So maybe these guys are going to get new coasters, hopefully. So I don't know how much that's going to change the price tag, but it's probably significant.
as long as they don't go about buying a whole load of B&M catalog coasters, we'll be all right.
Right. Yeah.
No more Batman clones. We don't want any more Batman clones.
No more SLCs either. It doesn't work.
Oh no, no SLCs. I've only ridden one SLC so far in my life, and it was the roughest thing I've ever done.
Was it
I'm never going back.
which one was it? Condor or which
No,
one?
it was Infusion at Blackpool.
Oh, Blackpool. Right. I
And it
forgot
was,
about that one.
oh, it was so rough. It's just absolutely. There is another one that I'm planning on doing. I think it's at Fantasy Island. I'm doing that next year.
Hmm.
I can't remember what it's called now. It's not. Is it Odyssey?
I'm not sure.
But either way, but apparently it's a lot smoother.
Hmm.
I'll reserve judgment until I've done that, and then I'll give my opinion on that. But yeah, Infusion at Blackpool was just one of the roughest things I think I've ever done. To be fair, a lot of the rides at Blackpool are very rough, but I forgive some of the older ones because of their age, you know.
Right.
But SLCs just seem to be. Oh, here we go. Coasters with moi here. The Odyssey. There we go. At Fantasy Island is an
Okay.
SLC, and
Good to know.
apparently it is smoother.
Hmm.
So yeah, I definitely think no SLCs. Will just no. Um, while we're obviously talking about Six Flags and that, one of the things that I know we briefly touched on before we went live, and I wanted to see what your thinks on this. Of course, there's the bits in the news at the moment about Magic Mountain, and they're not opening every coaster every day.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, I don't. Is it because they've got too many? Is that even possible of a theme park?
So I don't remember them having this problem as bad in the past. They started opening every day back in 2018. So that also can be a problem because you don't have as much time to take coasters down and then do refurb on them. But that being said, I want to say that starting around, because I don't go to the park as much anymore, I don't live there anymore. But when I did go there in October and December, those are like very prime times for that park because it's Fright Fest, it's holiday in the park, very busy times.
Yeah,
So
of
many things
course.
were closed, and things that weren't closed, a lot of them had one train. So it's just like, okay, maybe they're having issues. This is kind of a weird time for them to be taking stuff down or to be taking trains off when they're so busy. And, now it's July. They're still having problems. My brother went to the park this past week. He said that like a lot of rides were closed and Twisted Colossus had 2 trains, which for Twisted Colossus, that's like the equivalent of 1 train on a normal coaster is the 2 because of the way the Mobius loop works. So yeah, it was, it makes me wonder. So what really makes me mad is that, Six Flags is like, we're going to give you a premium experience and we're going to charge you more. And then Magic Mountain is the worst shape it's ever been that I've seen it. So how are you going to justify charging all that money when the park is looking like it does? I wonder if they're still having issues of staffing because I know that after the pandemic kind of subsided, a lot of places were having problems getting employees in. That might be the case for Magic Mountain too, whether just staffing the ride operators or getting enough people to do maintenance. That could be an issue. It seems like it's gone on too long for it to be just, incompetence or laziness.
Yes.
I think at this point there's something wrong with their staffing, and that's what I would guess is going on. And I don't know if they have any plans on fixing it. Maybe offering more money to their employees or offering bonus incentives or something. But it's just crazy that it's gone on this long. We're just like, wow, you go there and half the coasters are still closed, and some of them are running 1 train. It's just like, it's a it's a Six Flags park, but especially when you're trying to push the whole, we're different now, we're going to be better, we're going to charge you more money, and we're going to give you a better experience, and then the park looks like that. It's ridiculous.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and that was the thing that obviously really struck for me is, as you say, that they've made this big statement about being better and giving a better experience and get their standards up, and then all of a sudden this news is breaking that that you're paying this extra money, but actually half of the, or half, I know is an exaggeration, but
Right.
you know what I mean.
Yeah, like
But
6 or
you're
7
going to the
coasters at a time are down, which is just
yeah,
unusual,
that's
especially in the summer.
yeah, the busiest time of year, and 6 or 7 coasters are closed on a daily basis. And especially in a park that makes a big thing of the fact that it holds the world record for
Right.
the most number of coasters on in a theme park. It's just, I don't know. It just all sort of seems a bit backwards, doesn't it? That it, I know obviously Six Flags in general, despite this charge in this upcharge and their commitment to being better, still seem to be behind with investment in parks. You've
Yep.
got the likes of SeaWorld, of course, that are spending money hand over fist, and really investing in their parks. And Six Flags don't seem to be keeping up at all. Yet claiming that they're going to give you a better experience. I don't know
Yeah,
how that's going to work.
the investments they announced for this 2023 season, I could see where they're going with it. A lot of people didn't like it. They thought it was kind of a cheap thing, but it was kind of like, you know what, this is kind of consistent with what they're wanting to do, and I at least appreciated that they were making some investments to back up their claim, because a lot of times they're like, we want to be a family chain, and by doing that, what they try to do is just price out teenagers and then call it a family park. And it's like, you got to offer the family something. You just can't get rid of the teenagers and expect
Yeah,
other people to come in. I know that was actually some of the plans. Is like, with the teenagers gone, the families will want to come. It's like, well, what do you have to offer them? So at least some of the investments that they made over this past offseason made sense. But is it enough? I didn't think it was going to be. So I think they're going to reverse
yeah,
course. It'd be very interesting to see what they announce for 2024, especially with Great Adventure's 50th anniversary coming up. Are they going to get a major new coaster? Magic Mountain's teasing a Giga something. I'd be
yes,
curious. I'd be surprised if that was nothing. It might be something stupid, but
yeah.
they're going to get something about 300 feet, I would guess, one way or another.
Wow, wow,
So
yeah.
And they're adding kids coasters, which is nice, to Fiesta Texas over Georgia and St. Louis. So we'll see if they continue that, or if their numbers start plummeting. Just be like, you know what, screw it. We're just gonna put a major new coaster in again and see what happens.
And bring the teenagers back.
It's better than what's going on now.
Because they introduced that compulsory chaperone, didn't they? Was it Six Flags that introduced that?
I don't think Six Flags has any chaperone policy, unless someone can correct me. But I know Cedar Fair uses it a lot.
Maybe it was Cedar Fair.
Yeah, I don't know of any Six Flags park that has a chaperone policy at the top of my head. Unless, yeah, might be one of. I know Cedar Fair was really pushing it in like a lot of their parks. Like over half their parks had it, and then like Kennywood is the one that kind of started the whole thing. That hasn't really caught on as much as I thought it might, but yeah, definitely Cedar Fair is definitely doing it, and they're checking. I left Worlds of Fun right after the chaperone policy kicked in for like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They were checking IDs at the security gate, so they're serious about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least if you've made a statement like that about chaperone, then what the public want to see, of course, is that you're enforcing it. Especially if people are coming because you are a family park where it's going to be safe for families, then
right.
People are going to want to know that that's being enforced and that they can be safe in those parks, I suppose. But I just don't know that excluding teenagers, is that not a great source of income? I know in the UK
it's not. It's really not. I mean, okay. When I used to go to parks when I was younger, and even now when I go to parks just with the guys or my brother or whatever, like we don't spend a dime there. Like we get in with our passes. We use our dining passes. We might buy a cheap souvenir. We don't spend any money. But when I take the family, the money flows. So
yes,
and that is the case for everyone I know. So that is I can definitely see why they want the families to come in. They just need to make it attractive. So a place like Magic Mountain is kind of tough because the families have so many other options. They're not going to out Disneyland. They're not even going to out Knott's. So they're trying to be like a B-rate family park when there's an A-rate family park down the road that charges about the same amount of money. It doesn't make any sense. But other parks, maybe like over Georgia, if they try to do that, there's not a lot of other options around this when to drive down to Disney World. So it could work.
Yeah. It might be something worth trying. Obviously I've got to ask you, because everyone's talking about it and it's all over social media. Top Thrill Dragster. What's it going to look like? Obviously I've seen so much speculation.
Ever since the shutdown, I said, I bet you they're going to replace the launch with LSMs. I bet you they're going to make it a multi-pass. Those were my 2 predictions from the start. And as time has gone along, it seems like that's more and more likely to happen. I don't know what's going to happen after the Top Hat, if anything. I mean, it could just be they're going to do the LSMs, they're going to do the multi-pass, and then that's it. They're not going to have any kind of extended layout at the end. If I had to guess, unless something's happened and I missed it, I don't think that's going to be the case. But maybe it will be. I don't know. It's so hard to predict. But I think the whole multi-pass with a spike is a good idea because not only, I mean, I don't even know if they can get it up to speed with LSMs unless they put LSMs on the lift hill or on the Top Hat, which they can do that. I mean, it's happened before. But I think the multi-pass launch adds a kind of a cool quirk to the ride where they can really market it. And it'd extend the ride time too. It'd be a fun thing to do. I think. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think LSMs, swing launch, and then I would tend towards maybe nothing at the end of the ride after the Top Hat. But I could be wrong.
I mean, obviously, it's an iconic ride, and it's great that they've taken the choice to just sort of reinvent it rather than just pull it down, which I know people were worried about at one point that might be just what they did, just pull it down and build something else. So the fact that it's being reimagined, and is obviously a great thing because I suppose it would be the equivalent of pulling Nemesis down in the UK almost, wouldn't it? It's an iconic ride.
Right, it was a record breaker and everything at the time.
Yeah.
Very, very popular ride too, but just a maintenance nightmare. I know the park and the chain just hated it. So hopefully now it becomes more reliable. more like a
Yeah.
Pantheon style coaster.
Yeah, and I know LSMs. I like LSM launches. I think that they're a
Hmm.
lot smoother, aren't they, than the hydraulic launches. Obviously, we've got Stealth here in the UK,
Yeah.
as you well know,
Hmm.
and that launch really packs quite a
Oh
punch.
yeah. Yeah.
And obviously you've got King Dakar, which I can only imagine is 10 times worse, just purely because of the increased top speed that it needs to achieve.
Yeah.
So. Whereas LSMs tend to be a bit more of a smooth glide to speed, don't they?
Right.
I do like an LSM, but whether they can achieve this kind of speeds needed, as you say, remains to be seen. But they are more flexible about where they can be installed. As you said, you could fit one on the top hat.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see. It's certainly one that's going to be worth keeping an eye on. But as I say, I think the great thing is the fact that it's back. They kept it
Yep.
and obviously have gone
And August 1st,
really.
we'll find out. I think August 1st, I think that's going to be the official. What we can finally put
That's what I
all the
was reading.
speculation to rest. All the YouTubers who are
Yes.
making all their videos about what it's going to be. I'm sorry, you're going to lose all your revenue stream, but we're finally going to know what it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's and I think it'll be very interesting to see that, and it'll be interesting to see how many YouTubers immediately post videos going, "I was right,"
Yep.
because that'll be the next revenue, won't it? It'll be that I
I
was
might
right about.
I might be one of them. We'll see.
Why not? Absolutely. Why not? Why not? Um, Obviously, the other main thing I thought I sort of get you to comment on is something that actually we've had a similar incident almost in the UK, which of course was the Fury 325 and the very sad incident with its cracked support
Hmm.
pillar. Um, we had actually Nemesis Inferno in the UK was closed for I think it was 2 weeks, and the rumor went round because it happened so almost very quickly after the Fury incident, and it was almost like oh crikey, what's going on here with this, it wasn't as bad, thankfully. It was a weldable minor crack
Hmm.
for us, but obviously the Fury one, I mean that was quite alarming, wasn't it, to see that it got
Yeah,
to
it
that
was it
point.
was flapping around. Yeah, it was completely disconnected. It was interesting to see that something that I didn't think was possible for like it didn't even seem like it was a point of like where they had welded or anything. It's just the thing just cracked. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll do it. They've investigated why that might have been the case. It was maybe a design flaw where there was just too much stress on that area, or maybe the ground was sinking and it was causing stress on the area. Who knows? I mean, it always rains at Carrowinds, like I say. Maybe the ground gave out and it made it just
Yeah,
snap. But yeah, it's kind of scary that can happen at a on a B&M at a major park. That's something
yeah,
that. But then again, Top Thrill Dragster has something fly out of its train and hit someone too. So you
yeah.
just never know. You just never know.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me the alarming thing was, well, I'm not an engineer, obviously, but with my limited knowledge of metals and that kind of thing, you kind of ask the question: had that crack been appearing over time, and if so, how was it missed before it got to the point it was at?
Hmm.
And because as I say, we had an incident. Well, not wasn't an incident. I shouldn't call it an incident. But Nemesis Inferno, one of its support pillars developed a crack, but it was spotted at such an early stage
Yeah.
because the inspections were every day were so thorough that they very quickly spotted it and rectified it. It sort of makes you ask the question, if are their inspections good enough?
Well, I can guarantee you one thing: they will be now.
Well,
At least with Cedar
yes,
Fair, um,
yeah,
they're going to be very hypersensitive about everything because this wasn't just a theme park story; it was a national, international news story
yeah,
that hit
yeah.
all the
It was
mainstream
it,
outlets.
it was all over the UK. We literally we knew about it like that. It was, as
Yeah.
you say, it was instantly international.
I remember when I found out about it. I think it was on June 30th. Someone sent me a thing, something. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And then it was just like, whoa, this is like all over the place. Like this is everywhere. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. So I think the embarrassment and the fact that they don't want this to happen again, they're probably putting in some new protocols for their inspections. And it may have already been in place and they just weren't doing it. But I think that a lot of times when stuff like this happens, it's kind of a good thing because at least in this case, no one got hurt, nothing serious happened, but it's going to lead to more vigilance on their part, probably industry wide.
And to be fair, I mean their reaction to it, I think they deserve credit for the way they've reacted, because from what I heard, it could have been repaired with a weld,
Mm-hmm.
but they chose to replace the entire pillar.
Yep.
And they've insisted on, is it 500 test runs
Something
before
like
it
that.
reopens
Yeah.
to the public?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, in credit to them, obviously the ride was instantly stopped as soon as it was noticed, and taken out of use, which as it should have been. But it does seem like their reaction to it has been very proactive, and
Well,
I
it's
think
good.
that
Yeah,
will.
it's good. I mean, I think that all the attention also drove them to be more transparent about the whole issue. They're not going to sweep that under the rug. They probably figured
No.
the best thing we can do is take care of it and be very open about what we're doing. That's what they did. Yeah, they had very long press releases about what was going on. They notified us when the track was being, or the support was being manufactured, and when it got delivered, and when they installed it. Yeah, so it was a good PR thing on their part.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that, as you say, there probably was an element of the press forcing them into that transparency, but I think I think they'll come out of it actually with some credit, because of I think they've handled the situation very well. They've not tried to sweep anything under the carpet. They've almost gone, do you know what, we messed up here, but we've put it right, and we've put it right in the absolute best way that we could. So, and I think sometimes that's a better option than trying to say, oh, well, it wasn't our fault, it wasn't, or we didn't know, and trying to make it somebody else's fault, or trying to sweep it under the carpet, as you say.
Yeah.
They've not done that. They've been very open about it, and I think that will go to their credit, or certainly for me anyway. Obviously, we had the Smiler incident here in the UK, which hit the news in a very similar fashion,
Right.
And is still actually brought up now occasionally. When I think when news outlets are a little bit shy of news stories, and if something happens in another theme park, you quite often find that somewhere in that news story they will refer back to that Smiler incident.
Yeah.
All those years ago, and it's just kind of like it's a shame that it's always going to be tarnished with that, and I wonder, I hope that 325 doesn't suffer that same problem.
I don't think it will. I don't think just because no one got hurt. It just got shut down for all. It was a very striking thing to see, which is probably why it's like, whoa, this looks, and then you can see the train go through and the whole thing kind of shake, and it was weird to see. But the Smiler thing, that was a tragedy. I mean, people lost their limbs, and it was just,
Yes.
So this one, no one got hurt. No, there was really no consequences to it. The worst thing that really happened is that people who plan on going to the park for those few months got screwed out of riding Fury. So I think it'll pass.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and as you say, yes, thankfully nobody was hurt. It was a very impressive video though to see that the way that pillar just moved
Right.
as the train came through. It just literally disconnected,
Right.
and then slid back into place.
Right.
And it was quite shocking. I must admit. For somebody who suffers from ride anxiety, probably not the best video to have watched.
Not really, no.
But I must admit, I've never been put off by those kind of things, and in fact, the Smiler incident, I've watched videos about that, and it's never put me off riding it. I'm never put off by those kind of things.
The Smiler incident was just a series of things that had to happen. There was like 7 things that had to happen in a row for that to occur, and they just happened to happen. It was just. It's kind of infuriating when you look at how everything, there was just no communication. People overrode the safety systems. It was just like if one person just stepped in and said, "Hey, this is what's going on," none of that would happen. So
yeah, as you say, if one person had had the balls to go, I'm not doing that because that's not right,
Yeah, or if anyone just communicated the fact that there
or
was
just
another train on
communicated.
this on the track, then that would have been fine.
Absolutely.
But there was no
Yeah, yeah,
communication. The ride tried to stop it. They over instead of questioning if like why hey why how, is there is there another train on the track? No, they just said no, there's not. Let's just override it. So
yeah,
and the fact that the thing happened to have stalled, which I'm sure is very rare. Like how often does that happen where the train actually stalls in the track? So yeah, that's one of those situations where it's just like that's just a horrible series of unfortunate events that will never happen
yes.
again.
Yes, no, absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, and as my friend here is saying, it was sadly human error.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and wind.
And
The
then, yeah,
stalling was of course caused by the wind.
yep.
And then sadly there were, as you say, a series of events that just led to a worst case scenario, really.
Hmm.
If anybody's got any questions for Chris tonight, we are going to have to wrap it up fairly quickly because obviously I'm sure Chris, but I know Chris is a very busy man from how many notifications I get on my YouTube channel about another video coming out from Airtime Thrills. Um, is there anything in particular we can look forward to in the very near future from Airtime Thrills? Are,
Yeah,
are we going to get another Sophie top 10? Because
we
I
are.
absolutely love that.
Yep. Yeah,
She's
she wants to do
brilliant.
top 20. Actually, I printed out all her credits, and she actually wants to rank all of them, which I'm like, I don't think you should do a video for all your credits.
Whoa.
But she wants to at least have it because I have all my credits ranked. It's not a great list. I need to kind of revise it. But she
Yeah.
wants to rank all her credits. And I think for sure by the end of the summer or maybe early fall, she'll do another top 15 or top 20 now that she has over 200. So she's for sure going to do that. I have more vlogs coming out from my last trip. I shot 7 vlogs plus 1 short vlog. The short vlog actually was released today. That was Stricker's Grove. It's only a
Yeah.
minute long, but it shows everything we did that day. But I have vlogs coming out. I already did Lost Island. I did Hershey Park in Canada's Wonderland. I also have Great America coming out this coming week. I have Cedar Point. Right. I have Marineland, Darien Lake. Those are also on the docket. Worlds of Fun. Also, I have a vlog for that. And then after I get back from Europe, I plan on vlogging each day and making each day a video. So that should be like another 10 vlogs. So I think people like them. They tend to do pretty well on the view counts. And it lets me, put a little personality in the channel. So it's not just, me talking to a microphone with clips playing on the side.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what to expect in the short term. All my series are going to continue on. End of the year stuff's going to be as normal. Astroworld documentary will drop in full, and then starting next year, we'll start working on the Great Adventure one. That should be a fun one.
Brilliant, brilliant. I love the fact you've got everything just already planned out.
Oh
Whereas
yeah,
it's funny because I'm with the show here. Obviously, I have to be super organized because otherwise I get to a point and I haven't got guests and then it all just kind of fit. It's very difficult then. So I work on a sort of 6 week um, schedule.
mm-hmm.
I'm always making sure I've got at least 6 weeks worth of guests.
Yep.
So so that works like that. But when it comes to actual parks and vlogging and stuff, I just kind of I kind of wing it a little bit. It's like some big visits like Flamingo Land is a big visit for me. I've never been there before, never done any of their coasters, so that's been planned and that's coming out, and it will probably be broken up into first rides on key
Mm-hmm.
roller coaster videos,
Mm-hmm.
and then it'll be a vlog of the day.
Yep.
Because we're going as a family. But yeah, I just think you're super organized, knowing all that already.
Yeah, I have a calendar on the wall that has all my video idea, and my calendar for the rest of the year is pretty much filled up. So yeah, I'm pushing stuff off to 2024 at this point.
That's amazing. Well, you can tell Sophie, because I've been trying to get Gabriel a bit more into YouTubing because he's very, very shy.
Mm-hmm.
He appears on occasional videos, and I usually have to coax anything out of him.
Yeah.
But he was watching Sophie's top 15 this
Mm-hmm.
morning from last year, and he immediately went into his bedroom with his little camera and started filming a top 7. I'm not quite sure why a 7, but he started filming a top 7. Well, yeah, well, that may have been the thinking. I don't know. But so you can tell Sophie, she's inspired him.
I will let her know that she inspired a 7-year-old boy in the UK to start making his top 10 list or 7 list.
Absolutely. So I'm very grateful to her because she's managed to do in one video what I haven't managed to do in like 18 months. So I'm very grateful to her for that. Um, Obviously, we've got a question here. If you could design the perfect roller coaster, what would it be? What would it look like?
It would look like Steel Vengeance, honestly. That's why I'm wearing the shirt today, Steel Vengeance. So no, I'm just kidding. Perfect roller coaster has a really long ride length. It has lots of airtime. It has lots of whip. Works in inversions. This is why Steel Vengeance is my number one, because it literally hits every single thing that I want in a coaster. It's smooth. I like the restraints on RMCs, and a lot of people don't, but I do. Like almost a minute and a half of actual ride time. It throws you out of your seat the whole way. Has good pacing the whole way through. It's one of the reasons why I don't know if anything's ever going to top Steel Vengeance on my list, just because every coaster seems to have something against it. Now, Steel Vengeance gets like trimmed too much. Like I know the mid course has been kind of hitting a little bit lately, and it's kind of maybe a little bit of a problem. But every time I ride it, it's still my number one. So it has everything that I really look for in a coaster.
The Zoodaloopers want to know if the Dodgers are going to do well this season.
Dodgers are a wild card right now. I'm not as confident as they have been in the past, but in the past they haven't really won a lot either. So if I had to bet on it, I would say that they're not going to the World Series, but sometimes they surprise you. Sometimes the teams that don't have a great year end up going to the World Series. So who the heck knows? But I just want to tell you, to answer your question, I don't have a lot of confidence in them. Rightfully so. There's also a question from Chris. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. About overcoming your fears. So did you do I think, was it a gradual or was it just you got everything?
So like I said, I started writing coasters at knots. So I wrote like Boomerang and Montezuma's Revenge, Ghost Rider, Windjammer, Jaguar. I rode those coasters and I was fine riding them. But then when I went to Magic Mountain for the first time 2 years later, I was still terrified of the bigger coasters they had there. So I guess you can kind of say that was kind of a gradual thing. But I would say after I started going to Magic Mountain, that pretty much like killed 95% of my fears. I still had like a little bit of anxiety getting on Goliath each time I'd go on for like maybe 6 rides or so. And then obviously going to Millennium Forest was a whole different beast. So I would say, to answer your question, I'd say it was more immediate than gradual, but there was a little bit of a stepping stones there.
Yeah, I can totally empathize with Chris actually, because my journey was more gradual. It took me, I think I finally started in sort of late 2020 was when I started thinking, okay, well, I've done Vampire, which is it is a kiddie coaster, a family coaster at least.
Yep.
No inversions, and all that. And I was like, I think I might be ready soon. But I waited until the 2021 season before I really started challenging the fears. And I would still say it's only been this year that I feel completely comfortable on Stealth, which is the one that's probably been my hang up for a long time. I think mine's been a very gradual. So it'll happen as it happens when it happens. You just got to keep pushing yourself. Is my advice. Always be pushing yourself, but know your limits as well. Because I find it easier when I've got somebody pushing me, but it has to be somebody who knows what my limits are and who knows when to stop pushing.
Yeah.
Because that can obviously have the opposite effect of I feel forced into this now, and straight away it becomes a bad experience. So I think that's important. One thing I wanted to ask, I've got a couple of other questions come in. If you had a tip for anybody starting a YouTube channel that aspires to be as big as Airtime Thrills, what would that tip be?
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot. So I kind of have three things that you should always remember. If you're serious about being on YouTube, get a good microphone up front. You don't want to have a bad microphone and then look back later and be like, God, my audio was terrible. Like if you're serious about it, get a Blue Yeti or get any other kind of professional microphone. It's going to run you over $100, but it is worth it in the long term. I also say be consistent with your uploads. I think the best thing you can do is at least post once a week. The more, the better. Not too much. If you do too much, your quality is going to go down. And the last thing would be just have an angle, like do something that makes you stand out from the other YouTubers. Like if you're just going to do a channel where you do reviews, it's like, okay, That's fine. But like, what do you bring into the table? Maybe you're super traveled. Maybe you've ridden rare coasters. Maybe you shoot funny vlogs like El Toro Ryan, or maybe you have like your coaster theories, like oh my gosh, Zach from Theme Park Media, and then or
Yes.
maybe you have like OK Coasters really stood out because of his storytelling and the quality of his footage and the way he edits. So like those channels, you can just tell from the start that they were going to be something good. I think those two channels may have been a little less on the consistency side, which may have hurt. But yeah, I think you need an angle to make you stand out, and I think that's something I'm kind of searching for with my baseball channel. It's like, do I really have something that makes me stand out? Not really, but I'm still searching for it.
Yeah, I think that's all good advice. Obviously, for me, the consistency comes from the podcast, which is a weekly upload, which YouTube likes. It does like that.
Yep.
And obviously a good quality microphone. It does make a massive difference. When I upgraded to this, instantly you notice the difference from the podcast audios.
Yep.
So I can totally agree with that one as well. As did the Zuda Loopers there saying about the audio. It is important to have good audio. Longhorn Coasters are asking, how many baseball parks have you been to?
I can get the list together. I'm not sure. I would say it's more than half of them. Next on Labor Day weekend, we're actually planning on going to St. Louis and Kansas City for the first time. So I'm going to add 2 more to the list. There's so many times where I've had a chance to go to a stadium. Like I almost went to a Blue Jays game in Toronto this last last month, but we just didn't have time. So it's one of those things where like, if it's convenient, I'll do it, but I won't go out of my way to do it. So it could be so much more, but I still probably have at least half of them on my list over the years.
Another question here: Man United or Arsenal playing in New York soon? Who do you think is winning?
I know nothing about soccer or
I
European
did wonder
football.
whether that might be a little bit too much, a little bit too, yeah.
Yeah, that's where my sports expertise ends when it comes to soccer.
That's fair enough. I think that's the last of the questions, and I think I've asked everything that I was going to ask you as well. So unless anybody else in the live chat has got any more questions, then I'll wrap it up for this evening. I think we have come to the end there, which is absolutely fine. So it just remains for me to say, Chris, thank you so much for taking time out of your absolutely manic schedule. How on earth you manage to hold down a job and do all the things you do on YouTube is just phenomenal. I struggle being, as I said to you in one of the messages I sent you, I totally empathize with what you said to me about trying to find that balance between YouTube and work and family.
And it's especially hard now because since I'm going to Europe, I'm trying to get all my stuff lined up for when I'm gone, so I don't have to work while I'm out on the road. That's making it even more difficult, but yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, absolutely, and and obviously the pressures of family life are,
especially when you have a 1-year-old, it makes it very hard.
yes, absolutely. Trying to, I tend to do my editing first thing in the morning, sort of 5:30 in the morning, because that's usually when I get the only time I get any peace.
I'm the opposite. I do it from like 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's for my prime work time.
Yeah, but quite often I do get Elijah waking up not long after that, and of course he likes to sit and help edit. Help being
just like Amy helps me by giving me everything on my desk and handing it to me. I'm like, thanks, I don't need this right now.
yeah. Elijah loves buttons. So we get.
Yes, definitely.
Love that.
Gotta love I'm with you there.
Buttons. Yeah. But so I totally empathize there with having all those commitments and still doing everything, and of course everything is done by yourself, isn't it?
It is. I don't have anyone helping me.
Like me, you're totally you're a lone YouTuber editing everything yourself. So that's amazing. And as I say, I'm so grateful to you for finding the time to come and do this for me tonight, because it's absolutely wonderful that you've done this, and obviously I really appreciate it, and I'm sure people who've watched tonight and who will watch it on catch up, because unfortunately Saturday nights are always a bit of a funny night to do. But
I agree. But at least it'll be on YouTube, and I'll plug it, and hopefully get some traffic over here.
That's absolutely fantastic, and yeah, as I say, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. We'll have to have a catch up, sort of 6 months down the line. And if you come to the UK, bring the family. I mean, I can already see a vlog here. You know, a collaboration with with our two families. Dragging them around a theme park in the UK would absolutely be phenomenal, and it would be obviously great to meet you in person as well.
Yeah.
You are somebody, as I said, that I've idolised for a long time, and has inspired me very much in what I do. So thank you very much for that. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and I look forward to speaking to you very soon. And give my love to your good lady and the children, and I look forward to seeing them soon too.
All right.
So bye for now. Take care
All
of
right.
yourself.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks, guys.
No worries. Bye. There we go. Chris, Airtime Thrills. What an absolute legend. As I said, I've been an admirer of his channel for a long time, and I admire the fact that he manages to produce and make all the videos he does on his own with young family and work and everything else. And he was somebody that inspired me with, you know, his story of conquering fears. So thank you to everybody tonight that has joined. I appreciate it. Is Saturday night. It's a night that most people are either out and about or doing, you know, various things. And I know Blackpool obviously were having their late night tonight, so probably not the best night to be doing a live stream. But so I do really appreciate those of you that did tune in tonight and comment and ask questions. If you are watching it on catch up, thank you very much for watching. As always, everybody, every view, every watcher, every commenter is very much appreciated. If you are new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, drop me a comment if you've enjoyed the show. And if there's anything you'd like to see in the show going forward, then drop that in the comments as well. Always like to get feedback from people watching. Next week, actually, we have got what could be classed as another foreign channel. It's a channel based in Wales, which is what I class as my home country. Two young ladies who I've recently become aware of. A new up-and-coming channel, and as many of you will know, I like to support up-and-coming channels as well as talking to well-established channels. So I'm looking forward to getting to know all about the Lift Hills, who have recently, of course, been to Oakwood for the reopening of Megaphobia. So I'm really excited to talk to them about what the new Megaphobia feels like, looks like. You know, is it better? Is it faster? Is it, you know, all those kind of questions that I'm sure you'll all have. So please join me. That will be a week on Monday. So that's the 31st of July at 8 p.m. right here on my YouTube channel. So don't forget to set the notification reminder for that one. It's sure to be great. They see all about the Lift Hills are absolutely lovely, and it's sure to be a great chat. So that's me done for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. As I said, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching and participating. I look forward to seeing you all a week on Monday. Until then, take care for now, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.